Incense burning, all space is filled with the fragrance. All Buddhas smell it from afar. Auspicious clouds gather everywhere. With utmost sincerity, all Buddhas appear. We pay homage and offer clouds of gratitude. A true cultivator regards the mistakes of others as one's own mistakes. I will not talk about the wrongs of others. I will not make known my, my meritorious deeds. Speaking of my own meritorious deeds shows my dark conscience. So today I wanted to talk about something that might sound a little strange. As most of you know, uh, I come out of the Christian church. I'm not sure whether still remains a Christian church. And when I was in the Christian church, it was, I would have been very offended by the talk that I'm going to have today. Of course, now I'm in the Buddhist church, and I'm sure that my listeners out there in internet world, maybe not in here, but out in internet world, going to be very offended by my talk today. So I guess it just doesn't really matter where you are. If you're in any kind of church, as opposed to seeking the truth in any kind of institutionalization, you're going to be offended by something. Because anytime we are seeking something out there, there's going to be the possibility for offense. We have to be searching for that which is real, from the inside. That's the only place that truth is going to be, can be found. The only place that truth can be found, the only place that peace can be realized. Now, in the beginning, we look out here because we think it can be found out here. And surely there is a finger pointing, but ultimately it points us back to the restlessness that is in here, because we think that the answer is found out there. Searching for what can only be found in here. And surely there are guides out here, because the whole world is a mirror pointing inward. That's okay. It's okay for us to have a mirror. It's okay for there to be concepts, as long as we don't take the concepts for real. As long as we don't take that for our reality. It's okay to have that. It's okay to be searching and dialoguing. It's okay. But the truth of the matter is that all of this is a figment of our imagination. But we've been, covered over and obscured since beginningless time. And when the collapse of that comes, then we'll see that this whole thing that we call life is just an illusion. Now, I'm talking and you're listening, but this is all just blah, blah. When you have that one moment of truth, that one spark of reality here and there, that you see the fallacy of it all. Just occasionally here and there, and it can scare the bejeebies out of you if you're not really looking for it. I was talking to my good friend Soma this morning, and I said, Soma, I had something this morning. I'm not sure what it was. I'm not sure whether I need to talk to you. I need to talk to my doctor. I don't know. I said, but for a moment this morning, I lost everything. For a moment this morning, I didn't know where I was, just for a moment. And I didn't know who I was. And then I said, oh, I'm just not gonna worry about it. It'll come back to me in a minute. But I'm serious. I said, I don't know if this stuff I'm studying or, but the relief that I felt in that moment of, oh, this is gonna be my understanding. Or unless it came from Audrey. Or I got a late text from you, or it either came from Audrey. Would you get this? Because that might be telling me my sugar's high, and it's gonna go off in a minute. But I didn't mind that my mind didn't register that I was Tanya Watson. There was such a relief to not have to be her for a minute. That's what I'm saying. It just felt a-okay, not having to be anybody, not having to be anything, not having to be anywhere, and not having to be afraid that I did not have to be anybody, anything, anywhere. For now, for this long. I remember one other time that I experienced that. And you know how when your family member gets Alzheimer's, and I was thinking about when my father got it, and we were so upset that he didn't remember us and things like that. And I came and told my family members, I said, don't y'all worry about it. We suffering about it, but he ain't suffering about it. We're upset that he doesn't remember, but he doesn't give a rat's behind. He didn't. He was like just happy, but we were like perturbed because don't you remember us? I'm your daughter. I'm your this. Well, I could say that because he did remember me. I was the only one. Oh, he knows who I am. The rest of them were upset. I was wrong for, throwing that up in their face. I'm so sorry. I apologize. Because it really hurt them that he didn't remember them, but he remembered me. I really do apologize for that. But having that experience, actually, it was very, very liberating. But if I was worried about it, then that would be a different thing. I mean, I looked around the room because it lasted, I said like that, but it lasted a little bit longer than that, and I looked around the room and there was nothing in the room that was really familiar. Hi, Bill. And he got a tie on too. Even had his hair done up. Yeah. So I thought today I would share a little bit of this story. Um, there's a BBC documentary. It came out a long time ago, and I didn't see this documentary when I was a Christian. I mean, you really better not have brought it to me when I was a Christian. But I ran across it some years later when I became a Buddhist. Of course, I could say I might have refuted it. I would not have embraced it. I would not have believed it. I may not have even known what you were talking about because I didn't even know there was a Buddhist world when I was a Christian. But it says BBC documentary proves Jesus was a Buddhist monk named Isa, who spent 16 years in India and Tibet. Now, it talks about the scrolls that they found in Ladakh in this monastery, and he was doing a documentary on the culture in India, and while he was traveling, he heard rumors about it, but he fractured his leg and he had to spend a month in the mountains of Afghanistan. And while he was there, he heard about a particular monastery and some other ones where there were some of the scrolls that had been hidden. And while he asked for permission to see them, they had said he couldn't. But since he fractured his leg and he happened to be in one of the smaller monasteries where the scrolls had been saved, he, over the course of the month, convinced the lamas to share the scrolls, and they were in 224 different pieces or whatever. And he was able, with their help, to translate them, and he did, and he was a well-known and well-respected Russian scholar and and Yogananda, um, and Max Mueller and some of the others went and verified some of these things, and of course it went out. So when he got to, uh, he shared them with the Archbishop of Canterbury and some of the others, said, you can't put these out right. He said it will just tear up the Christian church, and they're not the Church of Rome. Not I'm talking about all of Christianity. You can't publish this. He says, well, I'm going to. He says, well, tell you what, why don't you leave them here with me and let me, do another scholarly edit of it all, and I will, sanction it and put it out. He said, well, thank you so much for your offer, but I think I want to do a second edit myself, and I will go ahead and put it out. And so he didn't leave it, with the Vatican to bring it forth. And of course, then a campaign went out to discredit the the book, and it's called the Secret Life of Jesus. And and on the basis of that and the comments by Yogananda and Max Mueller and a couple of other very credible uh, scholars of those days and spiritual leaders, it has stood the test of time, despite the comments to the contrary by the established religious authorities. But there's something on page 108 that I wanted to really get to today, page 106, that I wanted particularly to share, and it's just one line. If you're interested in it, you can always pull it up, the documentary. I think it's still available. If you can't get it free on BBC, you can pay whatever, $10 to see it if you want to. I think you can subscribe to see it, or you can buy the DVD. It's a good one to have in your library if you're interested, or the book is definitely downloadable. I downloaded it today, this morning, and read the whole book. I think it's 180 pages, but there's just one chapter basically that speaks of. Now, Buddha Master talks about language prajna. Language prajna being that's a little bit correct and maybe a lot not correct. But there's a necessity for language prajna because it takes you towards what is correct. So it can be not correct, but because there may not be the capacity to understand fully what is correct, one has to start someplace to go towards what is perfect. And if you started with what is perfect, not having the capacity to understand what is perfect, you'd never be able to comprehend the perfection of it. So it takes us from what we can understand or what we do know, step by step, inculcating the mind, allowing one to hear and hear and hear, like polishing a dirty mirror until one can see clearly, just bit by bit, correcting what, overcoming the hindrance of what we already know, overcoming the hindrance of knowledge, until our view can gradually change. Because what we already know may be good. It just may not be good enough. What we already know maybe allows us to see this part of it very clearly, and that part can be true. It just may not be the whole truth. Or what we already know may be absolutely true from one side of things that could be perfectly useful for how we need to use it, but it doesn't cover the full scope of something. And so something has to be added. Or it may be true in the sense that it absolutely completes one standard of a law of science, of a law of the part of science that we know. But that's not all science. All science says. So one science might supersede another science. And although we know this law of science, we don't know this law of science has not been revealed to us yet. So when we get to this one's now no longer going to work. But we don't know this one. And so we can't always cling to what we know. We have to be open to knowing there can be something else. But it's the how should I say it? I don't know whether it's the arrogance of our ignorance, the ignorance of our arrogance. It's hard. It goes both ways. Yeah. That's why we have to just laugh at it. But if we can, we chisel away at that so that we can allow something else to come in. And when we can allow something else to come in, because, children are so open to learning something else. This sister right here is constantly talking about, oh, funny, what, I had a download last night. She's talking about I had a download. And I was just sitting there and just letting it download. She might have to unpack it, but she's open to the download. Happy for the download. And then receiving the download in that kind of joy allows it to be unpacked. Maybe you got to figure out where to use it, how to use it, what it is, what it means. And it might mean you have to toss out something you had before. Or you might have to figure out where to reconfigure, where to place what you had before. Sometimes it means that something that you had before, maybe that becomes not unusable for you. It doesn't mean it's necessarily unusable for you. Maybe it becomes usable for someone else who needs that at their level. And so you save that for someone who needs it at their level. You like just tuck that away. No, you don't use it right. But you just have it so that somebody who needs it at their level, that's your gift to them. You know who needs it at that level, and you give that to them. It's not like something that you scorn them because they need that at their level. Like that's a defilement. So it's time for you to go back to school. Because without you having needed it at the level you need, you would not have been able to take that giant leap. So if one has that idea that they have outgrown something, it means that they haven't understood anything at all. Whenever we get the notion that we've outgrown something, we've misunderstood how knowledge really works. We've misunderstood the spinning of the mandala. It's sort of like it's never detached. It's not like leaps. It's like a sling. It goes like this. There's never a disconnect. It moves like this. So I wanted to read this passage and remember about the imperfection of the language project. I remember I loved Elizabethan English. At least I loved it in the Bible because that's the only place I read it. And we weren't speaking that in our school book, but we did have it in our Bible, our these and thous and thuses. And so when I was in the Christian church, and something activated in me, even when I got my download in a different kind of way, when there was an unction of the Spirit, it came out of me in that way. So when a prophecy came forth, it came forth that way, with thous and thuses. It was really strange, but that's how it flowed out. It was in that kind of language. It was strange to hear it come from a 6-year-old. But that's why they knew they didn't give it to me. Because it came in that kind of strange kind of way. First, it would come in a strange kind of language for Baptist church. I had to leave the Baptist church because they told me it left with the apostles. They said, we don't do that here. And I didn't know what to do because that's where I was. They said they do that at those storefront churches. And we don't do that here. So I didn't know. I had to go to a storefront church to figure out what was happening. And then after that language that they do in storefront churches, then the translation would come, and it would come in Elizabethan like English. And they had to help me. They had to work with me to figure out what was happening, what was going on. So this languaging is not exactly right according to our Buddhist understanding, but it says on page 106, and now the time had come in which the Supreme Judge, in his boundless clemency, had chosen to incarnate in a human form. And the eternal spirit which dwelt in a state of complete inertness and supreme beatitude awakened for an indefinite period in order to indicate, in assuming the human form, the means of identifying ourselves with the divinity and of attaining eternal felicity, and to teach us by example how we may reach a state of purity and separate from the gross envelope to attain the perfection necessary to enter the immutable kingdom of eternal happiness. God, the complete inertness, through the mouth of this child, spoke of the nothingness of the body and of the grandeur of the soul. Now, as I read this was the translation from the Tibetan, how the language was translated. I was reminded of the Tibetan kayas, the Dharma kaya, the Sambhogakaya and the Nirmanakaya. The Dharmakaya being the true thusness or suchness, the emptiness, And so when they talked about the complete inertness, the supreme beatitude, that would be the what? The Dharmakaya. You awaken for an indefinite period in order to indicate in assuming a human form would be establishing a bliss body, which would be the what? Sambhogakaya. In order to establish a human form, which would be the Nirmanakaya, right? And it talked about that complete inertness, speaking of the nothingness of the body, the complete inertness being again the Dharmakaya. Spoke of that nothingness of the body and the grandeur of the soul, which is the duality, the form being nothing more than the emptiness, and also the emptiness being nothing more than the form. And so when Buddha Master is talking about in the Prajnaparamita, form is none other than emptiness, emptiness none other than form. And where we get it confused is thinking that we have to completely deaden the mind, or completely kill off the form, the feeling, perception, the mind, which is our consciousness and our thoughts, in order to awaken to our essential nature of emptiness. He says that's where we've made a mistake. You don't have to kill off five aggregates. You can realize you can realize the emptiness while still being there, consciously aware of the five aggregates. And if you don't, that's why you drop into that false emptiness that is dead as a doornail. And that's why, really why, we miss. And so when he talks about marvelous existence, it's finding that place. That's why he talks about not just sitting there in meditation until everything is dead and dropped off, but a kind of vibrancy. And he says, when you're sitting, when you're walking, when you're laying down, what's the other posture? It's four postures. Standing, like when you're standing. And so he means in essence all the time that there is a vibrancy and that there is a liveliness, there is a life that he calls marvelous existence. And that's what awakens the vigils and allows us to be useful in the world. It allows us to really do without doing. We talk about doing without doing, but what does that really mean? It allows us to really be still because we are abiding in the Dharmakaya, in the wu-wei, in the non-action. And it's from the place of non-action that we bring Fourth, the Sambhogakaya, the bliss body that produces the Namanikaya, the emanations that do everything. And there is the abiding, though, in the stillness of the Dharmakaya. So one is in complete repose, in complete non-motion, in complete non-movement, in complete rest. And from that place, everything is being done. Oh, I know you hear me today, but it's finding that place. One has to lose their personality. One has to lose their way to find it. But when one loses, they will find themselves standing still. He said, then the mandala will spin. Without even moving, without there being a user move, everything will be accomplished. Oh, that's a different thing. I can't explain it, but I'm getting it tied up. And I'm telling you, we're getting ready to go somewhere. But it's taking laying everything down. I've been someplace before, and I've seen some things before. I've built something before. I've built some things with the help of others, and I've built some things by my own strength. Most of them were very good. Some of them were a little dicey, but most of them were very good. I'm a very strong woman. And I've got my track record. But this is a call for something. I can't take any of that with me. Now I'm learning, remembering, I could say, all the way back to when I was sick. And I didn't have any idea of what it took. And I didn't know anything about anything. Over the years, I learned something. And now I have to give all that back. I have to lay all of that down. No more accomplishment. Can't use any of that old stuff. Not if I want to go any further. If I do, may achieve something, but it'll be common and ordinary. I wanted to say something because this evening at the 5 o'clock class, I'm going to be giving a talk on rhythm practice. And I want to say that a Yidam practice is something like could say it's kind of like a concept. And the practice is kind of like a car. You don't drive a car, you know what happens to it. It just ends up being like a piece of junk. It just doesn't run, you know. You could say it's like a battery. Gone for 30 days, battery just doesn't run, doesn't turn over. And your Yidam practice is sort of like it's everything is conceived by the mind. Honestly, everything is what you think of. All practice is what you think of. You can think like it's got great powers, and, you know, but everything is what your mind thinks of. So if you could think of your Yidam practice like a concept, there can be shifting times of what you need according to what's happening, what's going on in your life, how you want to serve the world, and what you need to serve the world. We think in terms of exchange in this world. That's our problem. Instead of boundless generosity, we're hardwired for exchange. You know, tit for tat. You give me this, I give you that. We have a sense of needing an exchange. That's the human mind set versus the bodhisattva mindset. No matter how spiritual we are, exchange is always in the back of our mind. No matter how good we try to be, we are looking for the exchange. And at some point, when we don't think the exchange is there comes some dissatisfaction. But a bodhisattva never looks for the exchange because their sufficiency rests in the bliss body, in the Sambhoga Kai. So until one establishes a basis in the Sambhoga Kai, one can't work. Because that's your lifeline. If you want to serve the people, it has to come from the Sambhoga Kai. Try as we might, even in establishing, cultivating the four Brahma Viharas, loving kindness, compassion, altruistic joy, and boundless generosity. Even when we're giving, even when we're doing for others, all of those things, they're still in the human realm. Because you can't be aware of people needing any of those four unless you're in the human mindset of seeing their suffering and their sorrow. But a bodhisattva is not that. A bodhisattva comes purely from a place of boundless giving, because that's their nature. not really seeing the suffering, but only the outpouring of the giving, offering what needs it, filling up the lack, because that's their nature. But there's a difference. Not from a place of, oh, you poor thing, let me help you. Not from that place at all. I know how it feels to hurt. I know how it feels to need none of that. None of that. That's from a place of abundance, their own. That's a different space. Yeah. Oh, we got to change some of our songs. We're working on a song right now. I feel your hurt. I feel your pain. No, we got to change. We got to change those lyrics. We can't sing that. That's not Dharma. And I could just say it. When something comes to you, I mean, I love the song. It sounds good, but that's not Dharma. Remind me to work on those lyrics. We were all ready to sing it too, you know. Yeah. So what I was going to say about that and with the Yidam practice, sometimes you change your Yidam practice based on what you need. I think I have, well, I think I know, I have several Yidam practices. And you should only practice one at a time because you have to give it a lot of focus, a lot of energy, a lot of concentration, a lot of consecration. You have to give it single pointed focus, putting it all in. So that it becomes illuminated in your heart and in your mind. Why you have to know how to develop confidence. And conceptually, you make it what it is. How the practice becomes real in your life. So it can be around being around longevity, around wealth, and that doesn't mean just money. It could be around favor. It could be around opportunity. That's what's needed to help serve people. It could be around service opportunity, and what allows that to come forward. Around health. But sometimes we miss focusing on the wrong thing. Good people, but we're not putting the focus where it needs to be. And the law of causality takes over. Right? So to get that first level of understanding, you know, what it is and why it's different. So I'm going to talk about that more, and then we're going to read the chapter on giving back. So I recommend, if you're interested, you can pull up that chapter. Um, and I have a dilemma because as soon as I read this chapter on uh, Easter, we're talking about the download. There was just like when I was sick, just like when I was 13. It was all right back then. And, but when I was out in California, I encountered another 35. His name Gung Gung, right? Gung talking the whole time I was out there. So the two of them were talking to me in the room today. Gung is still Easter, loving and kind. I'm thinking I'm loving and kind, you know. I'm real still. And what do I need at this moment to do this thing? And I'm going to think about it. And I'm saying it's a really serious thing. You have to know what you need, whether you need a shepherd staff. No. Um, and you need to fight off the war. You have to know what you need. And fight off the wolves with the staff. That's for yoking in the sheep that's going astray. Ain't gonna do much. So, now, this is not a glum conversation. This is about understanding, both compassion and wisdom. And they're two wings of the same bird. Yeah. Also, fortune and wisdom are two wings of the same bird. That's the only way things get accomplished. So think about your life. And if it's where you want it to be, where you need it to be, trying to get things good people. Because I think things are changing for all of us good people. The people that we need. But if we stay stuck in our old of what it says. And then any questions? And don't worry, because I'm going to read. Just read. Okay. May you be well and happy and peaceful. May no harm come to you, no danger. May you always be able to meet the inevitable difficulties of life. So if you're sick, you think about getting well. If you broke, you think about what you need to get your affairs in order. If you're lazy, think about what it takes to get up and move. You know, if you're always rushing, think about what it takes to sit down and get still. If you, whatever is plaguing you, think about what you need to do to straighten out your life. If you're muddled, think about what it takes to get clarity. That's what I want to talk about with you and set up one-on-one. May you be well and happy and peaceful. May no harm come to you and no danger. May you always be able to meet the inevitable difficulties of life.